Salut la famille, welcome back to the channel. Today we are back in the studio with the incredible Kasha. If you have been following my work lately, you will have noticed that I was shooting a lot of fitness models. Honestly, I started to feel that my work was getting a little bit repetitive, so I wanted to try something new in this shoot. So today we are ditching the muscle vibes and we are going for a high fashion editorial look. Kasha is a fashion model, so it fits perfectly. And I was really inspired by some shots that was utilizing colors and gels. Now for the first setup, I used the LED RGB light with a snoot to create the circular spot on the background. And I brought two of my own portable RGB lights for the ambient color. For some weird reason, this studio had multiple LED lights available, but only one RGB light is included in the rental. The second one is charged extra. However, for the strobes, you could use how many you want. So I decided to use my own portable lights and not pay extra, although they are not as powerful. For the colors, I chose a pinkish brown circle and blue ambient color. The reason I chose this color is because I used it to light the model, and it's much more flattering on skin tones than green or blue light. After the setup, I kept the same lights and colors, but moved the light and placed the model outside of the light pool. To get a silhouette effect, I wanted her dark against that bright colorful background. The pictures were amazing straight out of camera, although I had a bit of a dilemma in post-processing, as I wasn't sure if I should keep her completely dark or lift the shadows. In the end, I decided to lift the shadows just enough to see her features. When it comes to the gear, I'm using my Sony A7 IV. Lens-wise, I was switching back and forth between two lenses. I used the Sigma 85 1.4 when I wanted that crazy sharpness and beautiful compression. But I also relied heavily on the Samyang 24-70 2.8 because we were on a tight schedule and I needed that zoom versatility to switch instantly between full body shots and close-ups without stopping to change lenses. I will leave the links to all the gear I used in the description below. If you want, check them out. A great tip for when shooting silhouettes is to focus on poses where your model is sideways. She is visible mostly as a shadow, so her face and clothes aren't the focus. It's all about the outlines. Ask yourself, what is the shape of her body and face? Be mindful of her hand placement. Don't place it somewhere that will hide her contours or her jawline. A pose might look amazing in regular lighting, but here it might just look like a shapeless blob. In this third setup, I started having some challenges. The idea was to do a third variation with the snoot and light the model directly. But as I told you, the studio's second light was paid, so I had to use one of the portable LED lights I brought. But this caused two problems. One, I had to sacrifice the ambient color, and two, these LEDs aren't that powerful and can't be mounted on a modifier. These LEDs have a magnet, so I thought I could stick them to the light stand. But strangely enough, the light stand wasn't metallic. So I had to bring in a box to place the LED on. It was not ideal because it was too low, not powerful enough, and the light wasn't soft. If I could have done it again, I would have used the LED inside of Octobox. But again, I didn't want to pay extra. For this part of the shoot, the model wanted to have regular white background pictures with her outfits. To share the reality with you, I rented the studio for only 1 hour. As you can see, I packed so many ideas in that very tight schedule that there was no time for adjustment or testing. I asked the studio manager for 2 strip lights and an Octobox. Also, I had a shoot in the studio previously and it had 2 V-flats, so I expected them to be there. However, by the start of the shoot, maybe due to a misunderstanding, he gave me a single strip light and a bare bulb strobe. I had to rush to find the Octobox and couldn't wait for a second strip box, and the V-flats weren't there. Also, you will notice the strobe cable is stretched and wasn't long enough, so I couldn't place the light where I wanted, so I said screw it and shot with what I got. The plan was to use the 2 strip lights to light the background evenly, the V-flats to block the spill, and Octobox to the model, but I ended up with uneven light in the background and a lot of spill. Meaning my model wasn't properly separated. I managed to fix some in post-production, but the result is never as good as when it's shot properly in camera. A tip for placement using the snoot: you can't place it too much to the side because the circle gets crooked. It has to be as close to the center as possible. I also placed the model in the center, first because she needs to be lit by the light coming out of the snoot, but she also shouldn't hide the edges of the circle. Don't hesitate to adjust the model, because one of the drawbacks of this lighting is that it produces a harsh big shadow. That shadow needs to be taken into consideration in your creative composition. Lastly, I remembered that the strobe has a modeling light. I went back to my original setup and tried to light the model with that, keeping the circle behind. It was decent, but obviously not ideal because the modeling lights weren't powerful enough. To end the session, I tried the silhouette effect again, but this time without the ambient color. That's all for this video. If you stayed until here, thank you, and leave a like and subscribe and drop a comment on how you found the final results, especially considering all the chaos. And see you on the next one. Bye.